Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome.
There's a time when the operation of the machine becomes so odious, makes you so sick at heart that you can't take part. You can't even passively take part. And you've got to put your bodies upon the gears and upon the wheels, upon the levers, upon all the apparatus, and you've got to make it stop. And you've got to indicate to the people who run it, to the people who own it, that unless you're free, the machine will be prevented from working at all. I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
As long as the Matrix exists, the human race will never be free.
Start somewhere. It has to start sometime. What better place than here? What better time than now?
Terrorists! Terrorize this.
I know you're out there. I can feel you now. I know that you're afraid. You're afraid of us. You're afraid of change. I don't know the future. I didn't come here to tell you how this is going to end. I came here to tell you how it's going to begin. I'm going to hang up this phone, and then I'm going to show these people what you don't want them to see. I'm going to show them a world without you. A world without rules and controls, without borders or boundaries. A world where anything is possible. Where we go from there is a choice I leave to you.
I'm going to get on this mic and I'm going to tell these people what you don't want them to hear. But before I do that, I'm going to take you guys back a little bit to the good old days. And let's just think about how this is all working out for everybody, all right? You ready? Remember this? Do you all remember this?
We're gonna spread happiness.
Oh, yeah.
We're gonna spread freedom.
Oh, that's good.
Obama's gonna change it. Obama's gonna lead 'em.
Off the cliff.
We're gonna change it and rearrange it. We're gonna change the world.
Hell yeah. How's that working out for everybody? Greetings, free thinkers, anti-nukers, evolutionaries, and future internment camp liberators. I switched it up. It is Thursday, December 15th, 2011. You have found yourself in full rad gear, smoking a fatty to combat the effects of radiation here on the front lines in this war on our humanity. I'm your host, Darren Stone, broadcasting to you live from a super secret bunker on Bakalaka Daka Street, somewhere in FEMA Region 1. I'm sorry. I just love Team America World Police references. I just do. I can't help it. Tonight's call-in number is 1-917-889-3064 if you have anything to say. Because remember, kids, being fitted for your brandy new state-sponsored civilian internee uniform, that's not the time to let your voice be heard. So, 917-889-3064. It's your platform. All right, sorry, I'm a little wound up. It's been a while since I've been wound up for a show. I got a lot of stuff going on. I'm not going to get into that. But I'm wound up tonight. Good show. I think we have a good show planned. I don't know if you guys have heard, but the war in Iraq is over. That's right. The war is over. The economy is recovering, and the United States is spreading peace and democracy throughout the lands. So there you go. Everything's good. Everything's good. Oh, sorry. This just in. Oh, we're starting 2 more wars? Oh, okay. Well, I guess that was to be expected. You know what they don't tell you about the war ending in Iraq is that it's not really ending. It's just the official troops are coming home. The private contractors that operate above the law and shoot citizens in the streets and rape people's daughters after they bust in their doors, those guys are still going to be over there. Yes, they're going to be over there rebuilding infrastructure. Right, rebuilding infrastructure. You know, the Iraqi people are so grateful for all the help we've given them. They didn't want us to leave, right? They didn't want us to leave. They wanted us to stay. But being the peace and freedom providers that we are, we said, sorry, Iraq, we have work elsewhere. You're on your own. So I'm not going into that because it's a bunch of foolishness. What I will go into is a slight retraction, actually not a retraction from Monday's show. We reported on Reactor 4 in Fukushima possibly collapsing. Seems that has turned out to be a false story. Nevertheless, Reactor 4 is in a precarious situation, and one good shaker, meaning earthquake, will collapse. It's all, the building's all leaning and tilting and into a bunch of shambles, really, and a bunch of spent fuel rods sitting on top of it. I think somewhere in the neighborhood of 60,000, I think was the number I was told, but I may be messing up on that number. Whatever it was too many. It's like an AA program, people. One is too many, and 1,000 is way too many. That's not quite how the AA thing goes, but so Reactor 4 has not collapsed yet, although, like I said, if a good earthquake comes along, and I don't know what a good earthquake would be, but Japan has been hit by 5.0s consistently since last March. So the probability that another earthquake will shake that destroyed reactor down onto its core again it's in the cards. All right, let's hope it doesn't happen, but it's probably in the cards. All right, so those are my quick little updates for you. Oh, Comet Lovejoy. I don't know if you guys have checked out the Front's Facebook page. If you're on Facebook, check it out, The Front on Facebook. It's got the same logo you see up there. If you're looking in the chat room on the page, black and silver microphones, that kind of stuff. Like the page, and you'll get all the pertinent information. Okay. So Comet Lovejoy seems to be pretty big. We heard rumor that it may be visible during daylight hours, but of course, anytime anything supposedly cool is happening in the sky here in my area, I get cloud cover. So I don't know if I could see it or not. I haven't heard any reports of that, although the picture I posted up from the Soho imagery looked pretty impressive. It looked like a pretty big comet. Don't know if it was. I wasn't there. So that's my quick stuff. I could be missing things, you guys. There's so many things to cover out there in the world. I don't know really what to hit show to show, so I try to pick out the best stuff. But before I continue on, we're going to get into some FEMA camp, internment camp stuff, and this is right out. Okay, this is no joke. This is right out of the Army Regulations document 190-8. This is also referred to in that document as enemy prisoners of war, retained personnel, civilian internee, and other detainees booklet. Okay, the PDF file will be attached to the article when I post it up after the show, so you can check out the official Army PDF file on this that I'll be referencing from. This is also an article. I'll be referencing this article from a guy named Madison Rupert. I believe he has a website called End the Lie, I think it's called. I may have Madison on the program sometime in the future. He doesn't know that yet, or maybe he does know that. I'm not sure. But I'll be working on that. So before I go any further, let me just do the plugs I have to get done. Check out the Front's website for you new listeners, frontradio.net. Pretty damn spectacular, if I do say so myself. That's all I'm going to say. Log on, frontradio.net. You check it out. You be the judge. If you have any pertinent information to send to the show, just shoot me an email, thefront@live.com. That's thefront@live.com. Constructive criticism, rants, photos, top secret documents, whatever. thefront@live.com. Also, let me do a couple plugs for some friends of mine. First of all, governmentrag.com. The governmentrag.com. My former guest, Stephanie Sledge, she's now featuring the Front radio program on her homepage at governmentrag.com. So I want to say thank you to Stephanie for doing that. And if you go over there and check out Government Rag, she's got all the latest headlines and truth news that you need to know. Also, Orion Talk Radio Network. Check those guys out, OrionTalkRadioNetwork.com, and check them out on Facebook as well. I have a lot of good friends over on the Orion Talk Radio Network, 2 of which are in my chat room tonight. I'm going to say hi. Hey, JJ, thanks for stopping by, my friend. Check out JJ's show, everybody. He's on in the morning, Monday and Thursday mornings at 8 a.m. on the Orion Talk Radio Network. For you smartphoners, download TalkStream Live and hit JJ up on TalkStream Live, okay? And look, who doesn't like a nice T-shirt? The front T-shirts are ready to roll. Check them out on the Front's website. They're pretty killer. That's all I got to say. I have two of them in my possession now. Nice T-shirts. I believe as soon as I put it on, I felt instantly smarter and more free thinking. You should get one. Try it out. See if it happens to you. $20 donation. You can grab a Front Radio T-shirt. And you can do the same thing and support the Orion Talk Radio Network as well. They have some pretty killer T-shirts over there, too. I think they're doing the same thing, $20 donation. I could be wrong, but check out their website. All right, that's it for the plugation. I don't know if that's a real word or not, but that's it. That's it for the plugs. All right, so let's get right into it. So tonight's program, some FEMA camp, internment camp, special official stuff. Also, I have my former guest, Christina, a.k.a. RadChick. She'll be swinging by around 7 o'clock to give us an update on a situation, okay? And no, it's not the one out of Jersey, okay? Situation developing off the west coast of the United States. We have an incoming debris island of radioactive debris that's going to inundate it looks to be like the entire west coast of the continent. But we'll get the skinny on that from Christina. She'll be on a little bit. And also, if we get to it after Christina, I have an article about marijuana versus alcohol, which is more harmful, and statistics to back that up. Yeah. And you know what? We just may put it to the test live on air. We'll see what happens. We'll just go with the mood. See how it goes. All right, let's get into some horrific news, okay? Everybody looking forward to that? We're going to some horrific news first about what our government wants to do to us. Not our government. It's the people that handle them. But they're willing participants, so we can dislike them just as much. So like I said, this article written by Madison Rupert, and please, hey, Jules and JJ, or Jules, if in chat, just correct me if I'm wrong. Is it endthelie.com, Madison's website? Because I want to get that right. Anyway, this article is referenced, like I said, by official Army documentation. But before I go on to this, I just want to mention something about the term fear-mongering. There's no such thing. All right? Fear-mongering is all in the perception of who's hearing the news and how they're going to react to it. Look, you can label anything fear-mongering, okay? You can label anything that. Are the laws fear-mongering that's saying, look, if you drive and text, you could crash your car and die? Is that fear-mongering? Or is saying that, if we don't stop exhaling, then we're going to destroy the planet with global warming? Is that fear-mongering? If your doctor says, hey, you're developing cancer, is that fear-mongering? No, it's bad news. It's all bad news, but it's not fear-mongering. I don't really even understand what that is. So I chalk that up to if the person who's receiving the information is unable to deal with it and thinks that somebody's trying to intentionally scare them rather than to inform them, then that's up to that individual who's receiving that information and how they perceive it. And that's how the whole fear-mongering thing works, in my humble opinion. All right? Now, and I have to preface this article or this information I'm going to give you with that fear-mongering thing, because I'm not fear-mongering. This is what's written in Army Regulations Document 190-8. okay, also known as enemy prisoners of war, retained personnel, civilian internee, and other detainees. That's the slang title of the PDF document. All right, so let's rip through this here. It's a fairly lengthy article, but I have done my homework on this one. You guys know I don't usually read the articles before I go on air because I like to go through them together as a family and pick out the inconsistencies or the bullshit, whatever you want to call it. But I went through this one before the show because it was so long. It's a 7-page article, and I picked out what I thought were the most important parts of it, which was a lot of the article. So, all right, here we go. Look, we all know about the passing of Senate Bill 1867, and you guys know that I have not made a big deal about 1867 because, in my opinion, once the Patriot Act was passed, and they can slap anybody with the label terrorist and then take away all of your rights and black bag you and haul you off to some unknown location until you are no longer deemed a threat. I don't really need any other legislation to do that. You know, I don't care if the guys who are hauling me away to solitary confinement for the next 10 years because I do a radio show telling you all the evils that your government is doing, and we talk about natural weather phenomenon. We talk about theories of heavenly bodies, and we talk about alternative health issues. You know, to me, if I get hauled away because I do this program, it's really not going to matter to me if the guys are wearing digital camo or if they're wearing black suits or they're dressed in black fatigues and body armor. It really won't matter. I'm still getting hauled away. So you guys know I haven't made a big stink about 1867. I think it's bullshit. I'm not happy about it. But it to me, the nail was already in the coffin at the signing of the Patriot Act. So I guess I really don't see the purpose of this. I have heard, and I can't verify this, that the passing of this is to get around, or there's an amendment in it. The wording somehow will allow detainees that fall under this S-1867 to somehow not be protected by the Geneva Convention, because I believe all war criminals are somehow or supposedly protected, as far as their human rights go, by the Geneva Convention. That being said, I honestly would not expect to be treated very well, and I wouldn't expect to have any rights if I'm being detained for what I think and feel and say. So I'm under no fantasy or misguided mindset to think that, oh, well, you can haul me away for indefinite suspension because of what I said or how I think, and I'm going to assume that you're going to treat me like a human being. I really wouldn't expect that. So that really means that I would not go, whatever that means. I would not go. All right, so on to this article here. With the knowledge that KBR, for those that don't know who KBR is, it's Kellogg, Brown, and Root. They are a subsidiary of or a parent company of, could be either one, I'm not sure, of Halliburton. That's a name most people know, Halliburton. Most people don't know the KBR name. But with the knowledge that KBR is developing a so-called National Quick Response Team to man the detention centers, popularly referred to as FEMA camps, on 72 hours' notice, the picture only gets more grim. The trend is also reflected in recent United States Army job posting for internment resettlement specialists. Now, this posting, I don't know if this was reposted and if this article or this job description, this MOS, as the commercial says, has been re-aired by the National Guard, or if it's just resurfacing because, on the internet because of S-1867. I don't know which, but I was on this ad released by the National Guard when it first happened, and I believe that was about a year and a half ago. So I don't know if it's been redistributed by the government or not. But anyways, yes, the National Guard is actually looking for internment and resettlement specialists. And since the National Guard usually operates on American soil, you got to ask yourself, who are they internmenting and resettling? Got to wonder. Is it going to be, who will the first occupants of so-called internment camps or FEMA camps be? I mean, will it be the homeless people that get rounded up on the streets in the wee hours of the morning when no one looks? No one would miss them, right? How would we know? Like those people don't have enough shit to deal with. Or will it be Occupy Wall Street demonstrators? I don't know. When my cohorts in crime, JJ and Jules, and I were down at Zuccotti Park, we were all being videotaped by police. There was police walking up and down the line of protesters in a sweeping fashion, videotaping all of our faces. And you might go, well, how can they really tell? Well, it's because they download that information into programs that utilize social networking services like Facebook and the facial recognition feature on Facebook, and then they can find out who your terrorists are that are speaking out against government. Right? And once they find out who you are, now you're on a list and your internet accounts are being watched, and everything you put on your Facebook page, every email you send, everything you do, every stroke of your keyboard is compiled with your name on it somewhere. It's true. Okay, so I got 3 lines into this article. Let me shut up and continue. So this is referring to the internment resettlement specialist. While this might sound tame and harmless to some, upon reading the job description, a troubling picture emerges. The internment resettlement specialist, or IR specialist for short, is not only tasked with handling the custody and control of individuals designated as an enemy prisoner of war, but also of so-called civilian internees. This is a classic example of Orwellian language. You're not an American citizen being indefinitely imprisoned by the military in a military prison. Instead, you're a civilian internee in a civilian internee camp. Well, this is kind of like why they use the word insurgent, because an insurgent is not someone who's fighting to defend their freedom and homeland against an occupying tyrannical force. No, an insurgent is someone, according to your television, that wants to kill American troops. And you're supposed to hate insurgents because, I think it was Chris Rock that said, hey, it's an insurgent. I don't know any insurgents, so they must be bad. Kill them all. I don't know insurgents. Do you guys know any insurgents? I would be one. You would probably be one. But you see, if it was the Chinese invading the United States and we were fighting back, Chinese television would say, oh, those damn insurgents, or those insurgents. I'm just using examples, everybody. All right. All right. So the article goes on to say that civilian internee is the exact designation assigned to the Japanese Americans who were locked up during World War II. And by the way, everybody, it wasn't just Japanese Americans that were locked up in the internment camps in the United States during World War II. It was a lot of other people, immigrants, that were locked up. But like the Holocaust, we get sold on just the Japanese and we get sold on just the Jews, so that it registers in our psyche as a racial thing, and we'll all think, well, we're way beyond this racial thing, so that could never happen again. But see, it really wasn't about race. It wasn't about race whatsoever. So the article continues on. If our government would lock up hardworking, patriotic Americans simply for being of Japanese descent, is it not a leap to think that they would do the same to political opposition? Well, look, political opposers have already been deemed terrorists by Cass Sunstein and Joe Lieberman and other nefarious political figures. I can't remember them all. Civilian internee is actually a specific status of prisoner under the Geneva Conventions, which is supposed to designate civilians who are detained during wartime, supposedly for security reasons. However, as we all know, the Japanese people being locked up were no security threat at all. In fact, despite the grand betrayal embodied by the internment of innocent American citizens, many Americans of Japanese descent actually went and fought for the United States in World War II. The 442nd Regimental Combat Team of the United States Army was a prime example of this, as it was a unit composed entirely of Japanese American soldiers. They fought in Italy, southern France, and Germany, and were in fact the most highly decorated regiment in the entire history of the armed forces of the United States, with 21 recipients of the Medal of Honor. Meanwhile, their family members are getting locked up in prison camps back in the country they're supposedly fighting for. The fact that such individuals would put their lives on the line and fight for a nation that was detaining their friends and family is almost unbelievable, but they did it, and yet our government is likely going to repeat the same horrific mistakes they made in the past. That's one disagreement. That's one disagreement that I have with the article. This is not a horrific mistake they're making. This is the game they're playing. I mean, no one is going to convince me that the people that are pulling the strings here, passing legislation and making decisions to do this, passing bills like S-1867, no one's going to convince me that they're naive in what they're doing and they're making a quote-unquote mistake. Sorry, it's not a mistake. Just like with the financial situation we're in, this is not a mistake. Supposedly FDR put in gave the Federal Reserve more power after the Great Depression, so as nothing like that would ever happen again. Well, look where we are, right? So these aren't mistakes. The people that receive the highest educations in the country are not so naive that they're making mistakes over and over again, people. You and I, with our community college degrees or 4-year degrees or no degrees, we know if we don't pay our bills, we don't have enough money at the end of the month to pay our bills because we've gone out and partied a little too much or bought something that we shouldn't have bought because now we don't have enough money to pay a bill. We're not going to make that mistake again. So no one's going to convince me that these are mistakes. All right, let's get right to the document here. In the Army Regulation 190-8 document, also calls, quote, enemy prisoners of war, retained personnel, civilian internees, and other detainees, which is available on the Air Force's website. Some details are given on what exactly civilian internees are and how they are treated. Chapter 6 of the document, entitled Administration and Operation of CI Internment Facilities. Remember, CI is Civilian Internee. Okay, so when I say the abbreviation CI, we're talking about people like me and you who are locked up in an intern camp. Okay. Okay, so beginning on page 23 of the PDF, page 19 of the document delves into some of these issues. So beginning with section 6-3, we learn that civilian internees have no real right to property under this military rule. The funny thing is that we really don't have any real right to property as it is now, right? Because if I don't pay my property tax, if my house is all paid off, I lose my property. Just so happens that my house is on that property too. So while they pretend to give the detainees property rights, it is clear that they can strip you of your belongings at any time for any reason. Subsection B states, quote, the personnel effects that detainees are allowed to retain but are taken from them temporarily for intelligence purposes will be receipted for and returned as soon as practical. That really means that they're going to take your stuff and they'll give it back to you if they feel like it at some point. Okay? I love the ambiguous wording of laws and documents like this. And then I love people who try to rationalize, like, they're not going to apply to us. Oh, yeah, they won't. No, they would never do that. So section 6-4 goes over the so-called, quote, internee committee. So don't worry, everybody. Because you've been jailed for what you think or what you say, when you get into your internment camp, you'll be able to have little with the rest of your internee people, friends in there in camp. You guys will be able to make a little internee committee, okay, which is a 2 or 3 person committee. The section -4 says, which is, quote, empowered to represent the camp to the protecting powers, International Committee of the Red Cross, or other authorized relief or aid organizations, and U.S. military authorities. So there, you can create your little righteous internee committee and plead your cases to the powers that be that are holding you in shackles. You know, but hey, I wouldn't count on it. People, if you're a prisoner in a camp, you know, the whole thing to having rights in the camp just doesn't jive, does it? Doesn't jive. But hey, look at the military is covering all their bases, okay? So look at, they're the ones putting out this stuff, not me, okay? They're the ones making plans to do this. I'm reading from their book, from their playbook, okay? So under subsection C, quote, each member of the internee committee will be approved by the camp commander prior to assumption of duty. If the camp commander refuses to approve or dismiss an elected member, a notice to that effect with reasons or refusal or dismissal will be forwarded through the channels to the branch prisoner of war information center for transmittal to the protecting power with a copy furnished to the National Prisoner of War Information Center. So there you go. Don't worry about it. If you have a gripe with the guy that's kicking your ass in the internment camp, just submit a letter, okay? And it'll go through the proper channels, and, you know, everything will be fine. Human rights groups will show up, and the guy will probably get fired from his job, and you'll probably be let go. That was sarcasm, okay? All right. Let's see. Zipping down here. Okay, the clothing. See, they have this down to the clothing that you're wearing. The clothing of a civilian internee is marked with CI on the front and back of each sleeve in 4-inch tall black or white letters between the elbow and the shoulder, and on the front of the pants and shorts above the knee and on the back below the belt. Now, I wanted to read that to you so you know just how detailed they have made their plans. I'm saying these things in a joking manner, but this is no joke. This is the plan. The food situation is similarly unpleasant, considering that, quote, subsistence for the CI will be issued on the basis of a master CI menu prepared by the theater commander. Quote, the daily individual food ration will be sufficient in quantity, quality, and variety to maintain the CI in good health and to prevent nutritional deficiencies, end quote. Although they make it clear that if you perform physical labor, you receive more food depending on the kind of labor performed. Good dog, good boy. You work harder, you get more food. Therefore, if whatever food they decide is, quote, sufficient in quantity, quality, or variety, end quote, is not enough, which likely it won't be, you'll be forced to work hard manual labor to get an additional food. So this is all up to, again, the guy who's kicking your ass, if you're going to have enough food to eat. Continuing on. Part of Section 6-6, quote, medical care and sanitation, clearly indicates that those who are unvaccinated will be forced to be vaccinated, whether they like it or not. So, here's the actual wording. Quote, each CI will be immunized or re-immunized as prescribed by theater policy. I don't like that wording. This is the wording, theater. I'm not... end quote. Meaning that if the commander of the theater decides that certain vaccinations are mandatory, you are not allowed to be released into the general population until you have received them, or as they put it, quote, until medical fitness is determined, end quote. Well, if, some pharmaceutical company, GlaxoSmithKline, Pfizer, somebody wants to check out the effects of a new vaccination, or perhaps they want to try the new fun vaccine. Oh, you guys never heard of the fun vaccine? Google fun vaccine. It's short for the fundamentalism vaccine, meaning if you have a strong belief system, the fun vaccine will manipulate a part of your psyche and you will no longer give a shit about that belief. So if they want to inject you with the fun vaccine, if they determine that is part of being medically fit to be released into society, you will take that vaccine. It gets even more fascinating when they get to section 6-7, quote, social, intellectual, and religious activities, which says, quote, subject to security considerations and camp discipline, the CI will be encouraged, but not required, to participate in social, intellectual, religious, and recreational activities. And that doesn't sound too bad, does it? Right? Well, they're going to let you play with your friends. Not too bad. Oh, but wait, hold on. We're not done explaining what that means. It goes on to say, quote, introducing political overtones into or furthering enemy propaganda objectives through these activities will not be tolerated. So, see, it's not so good when you get down to it. All right, skipping along here. What do we have? Oh, we have family visits. Visits with the family are similarly restricted by whatever the theater commander decides to put in place. Quote, near relatives and other persons authorized by the theater commander will be permitted to visit the citizen internee as frequently as possible in accordance with theater regulations. They should be advised that the taking of photographs on or about the facility is prohibited. Prohibited. Comment in chat from Bigfoot says theater is a war reference. Makes sense. All right. In the theater of war. Well, like Kissinger said during the Egyptian uprising, it's Act 1 of a multiple act play, right? All right. So here we go. Continuing on. They even have outlined a program to develop, quote, vocational training projects with an immediate view of developing skills that may be useful during internment, like digging ditches to throw bodies in, perhaps. While they claim, or perhaps maybe dancing like a monkey, to the amusement of your commanders. I'm sure they'll inform you of whatever skills they want. Ladies, I won't go into detail about the skills they'll probably want you to be performing. And maybe some men, I'm not quite sure. All right. Let's not get sidetracked, even though this is episode 169. Calm yourselves. While they claim that civilian internee clergy will be allowed to communicate with religious leaders on religious matters, they do say that it will, quote, will be subject to censorship. So you'll probably be able to communicate with a priest if that's something you're into, but you'll probably have some jackbooted thug standing right next to you as you do that. The restrictions on communications are outlined in Section 6-8 and include no drawings, maps, or sketches in any outgoing correspondence. No registered, certified, insured COD or airmail items will be allowed to be received by civilian internees. And, quote, censorship of the CI mail will be according to the policies established by the theater commander. So basically, they're going to decide if you can get any mail or not. And I would imagine that receiving mail from the outside world might be something you want. Okay? Don't worry, I'm going to address this whole thing by the end of this article. I'm not succumbing to the ideology of being put in a camp, people. I'm just reading you the actual wording, of the documentation that goes along with legislation like the Patriot Act and the National Defense Authorization Act. I'm bringing the realism to you. I'm letting you know this is what they're planning. Okay. FEMA camps are not a conspiracy. Oh, let's see here. Okay, so this is where it gets really disturbing. Quote, outgoing letters and cards may be examined and read by the camp commander. The camp commander will return outgoing correspondences containing obvious deviations from regulations for rewriting. Again, if I'm being held in an internment camp in the United States for saying what I think and feel, I am under no misconception that I don't have the right to write or say or send correspondence saying anything I want to. I'm not under that misconception. Quote, camp commanders will name U.S. military personnel to supervise the opening of all mail pouches containing incoming letters and cards for CIs. These items will be carefully examined by the named personnel before delivery to detainees. Those items that have arrived without being censored by appropriate censorship elements will be returned for censorship to the designated censorship elements. Okay. So we're moving on a little bit into the article, a little bit deeper. Almost there, people. Almost there. Here we have Section 6-10 that deals with discipline and security. It's taken seriously in the case of civilian internees. The regulations state, quote, measures needed to maintain discipline and security will be set up in each camp and rigidly enforced. Offensive acts against discipline will be dealt with promptly. The camp commander will record disciplinary punishments. The record will be open to inspection by the protecting power. Oddly enough, under this section, that's end quote, sorry. Oddly enough, under this section, it is written that no CI may have any political emblem, insignia, flag, or picture of a political leader unless it is a picture of a political leader that has appeared in a magazine, book, or newspaper and wasn't removed by the censorship element. So, if you were, living in China during Mao, of course, you can't have a picture of anybody else, any political figure, but I'm sure if you wanted to tattoo Mao all over your body or paint a mural in your cell of Mao, you were allowed to. Yes, I'm gonna comment on a comment in chat. Seems very surreal that we're even having to talk about this. Yes, it does. I'm going to address that at the end of this. Don't worry. Check this out. They also explicitly state that you are to be nice to your captors. Quote, the normal civilian courtesies will be required of the CI in their relationships with military personnel. End quote. Mm-hmm. All right. Now this goes into a little bit more detailed of disciplinary. This is under Section 6-12, disciplinary proceedings and punishments. But I'm not going to read those. It's the normal stuff in prisons. Okay, normal stuff in prisons. But it goes on to say, however, these regulations on discipline and judicial proceedings are likely to be waived due to the fact that the National Defense Authorization Act would effectively override the need to comply with any of these regulations. Civilian internees can indeed be forced to perform labor. Compulsory labor is supposedly limited to 1, administrative, maintenance, and domestic work in an internment camp. 2, duties connected with the protection of the CIA against aerial bombardment or other war risks. Duties connected with the protection of the CIA. I don't think that means Central Intelligence Agency. I think that probably means Civilian Internee something with an A, against aerial bombardment or other war risks. Hey, quick, all you CIs. I don't even know. I don't know. 4 of you lay on top of your commanding officer. So, when the bombs come down, you get the shrapnel. I mean, I don't know. I don't even know. I don't know how. I don't know what prisoners would do for protection against aerial bombardment. I don't know. And number 3, medical duties if they are professionally and technically qualified. So if you're a medical professional, you'll perform medical skills on commanders and whoever else you want, or else you're going to get your teeth knocked in with the butt of a rifle. But don't worry, you proud Americans. It'll be by the butt of an AR-15, American made. Hoorah! All right. The problem is not only that our government has a clearly outlined procedure for dealing with civilians who are locked up for no reason at all, but that our government has a history of doing exactly that. It is also quite dangerous that under the National Defense Authorization Act, American citizens could easily be classified as enemy prisoners of war instead of civilian internees, giving them less rights. Furthermore, under Section 1031, anyone can be shipped off to any foreign country or handed over to any foreign entity, essentially waiving what few rights are afforded under these regulations. All right. Now look, that's the end of that's all I highlighted in this article. Do you think that was enough, you guys? Was that enough? And like the comment from my friend Jules in chat that I just referenced, it seems surreal we're even talking about this, isn't it though? I mean, honestly, people, think about August 2001. If you were to tune into a talk radio show and we're talking about actual policy and procedure for internment camps within the United States, I'd probably be called a conspiracy theorist. I mean, what are we talking about? It's beyond most people's ability to grasp the magnitude and the severity of what we are talking about. I really don't even know what to say about it, but I can tell you this, everybody. I've always advocated a peaceful resistance. I've always advocated, mass corporate boycotts, crash the system by where you use your dollars. But I don't think that's going to happen. And I don't know what we're going to wait for. I mean, I really don't know what we're going to wait for. In any military conflict, tactics, 101, you want to have the upper hand. We do not want to wait until they are ready to do this. We do not want to wait until people are being dragged out of their homes. We don't want to wait until they're rounding up protesters. Do you guys remember, those of you that have been following stuff like this for a while, do you remember the G20 summit in Pittsburgh and the video footage of this unmarked Ford Taurus, gold Ford Taurus, pulls up to the crowd? These military guys in digital camo get out of the car, grab some young kid and stuff him in the car and drive away. I've never heard what happened with that. I never understood what that was. I don't know whatever happened to that person. I have no idea, but I remember that footage very, very clearly. So it's already happening. Honestly, a lot of people in Nazi Germany, they claim that they weren't even aware of the concentration camps for a long time in the beginning. For a long time. And then by the end of the whole thing, the Allied forces, when they got in there, they made the civilians march through the camp so they could see what they were doing, what was going on. They made them look. And, if most people, look, we have internet censorship. We have YouTube censorship. We've all seen it. We've experienced it. We don't even know how much of the internet is really being censored because we're becoming acclimated to it. It's incrementalism in this censorship. And are we really gonna see? Do we really know? For all we know, there could be that huge FEMA camp up in Montana could be packed to the gills right now with Indians off of reservations or homeless people or anybody. We don't know. We'd never know. So like when I ask people what is your definition of freedom, and they tell me, well, I can move from point A to point B without being detained or go through a checkpoint. Well, so what's going to happen? When the day's going to come where you can't move from point A to point B, and you think that's a good time to fight back? Look, man, I'm not saying that fighting back is fun. I don't want to do it. I don't want any of this stuff to be happening. I don't want to read you this crap. I do it because we got to know. We have to know about it. the media scares people with militias, and I'm not saying that there's not some militia organizations out there that aren't total whack jobs. I mean, I'm sure there is, but there's whack jobs right in our government. There's whack jobs at your corner store. There's whack jobs all over the place, man. We don't, your militias, if you can find them in your area, I can't. They're very secretive. I know there's one in Massachusetts. I would love to find it. I would love to talk to somebody from it. But I don't know how to find these people. And we should all be looking to do that. We really should. I don't want to fight everybody. I've said this a million times. I'm no fighter. I have no military training. Yeah, I got guns. Yeah, I have gear, but I have never been in combat. I don't want to be in combat. I will be, because I will not be taken to an internment camp. I will not, because I will not be under the misguided perception that I am going to be treated nicely or get out someday, because I know what I've said about our government. And I know what I've said about the New World Order. And I know that the things that I've said are things they don't want me to say. I don't want it to be true. I would rather be doing fun things, everybody. Believe me, I'd rather be doing fun things. People like to label people that do shows like me as doom and gloomers and fear mongerers and doom porn and all this bullshit. Well, like I said, I didn't write the legislation, okay? I didn't vote yes on the legislation, all right? I didn't do that stuff. I'm just bringing it to your attention because you're not going to hear it on mainstream television. And when you do, if it gets to that point, because it will, and they will find a way to spin it and justify it to the sheeple out there, it's way too late at that point. I mean, a friend of mine showed me an article out of Philadelphia where they're rounding up homeless people underneath this bridge at 2 a.m. in the morning. So what you have, and beating these people, so what you have is you got a bunch of dumb, young punk cops and a bunch of old, angry old man cops, and they're down there beating up and rounding up homeless people. Who knows where they go? I don't know where they go. Is anybody going to miss them? And there'll be some scumbags out there that drive by and go, oh, lovey. I noticed the population of homeless has decreased. It's such a nicer city without them. Yeah. Hey, lovey, when you're in your internment camp practicing your quote-unquote specialized skills on your commander, think back to that time. I mean, look at people. The government is already making lists, right? We have the no-fly lists, right? The no-buy lists, all right? We have the lists of people who the White House has actually released people that they're deeming terrorists. We've heard, right? I can't validate that these lists that list is actually true. I believe that it was actually released on the White House website maybe a year ago, where people like Alex Jones were on there. What was his name? Who's that? Dylan Radigan. Glenn Beck. Look, I don't like any of those people really, but I'm just saying, people were on that list. Okay. So the lists are being made, and we've heard the conspiracy theories about the red list, the blue list, the yellow list, all right? The red list is supposedly people that will be rounded up and just shot because their re-education, quote-unquote re-education processes will most likely not take a foothold on the red listers, so they will just be disposed of. The blue listers will enter a re-education process, and if you can't be re-educated into Orwellian thinking in New World Order servitude, then you will be put in the ditch as well. And the yellow listers are the dumb sheeple that will be rounded up, not re-educated, and those are the people that will probably rationalize to themselves that they're doing the great American thing by being a good civilian internee, and performing whatever acts they have to perform on commanding officers and whatever manual labor they have to do until they're shot for fun. They're used in maybe death fighting matches. I mean, who knows what will happen? I mean, think back to the atrocities you heard of out of concentration camps in 1930s Germany. All the experimentation that went on those prisoners. You don't think they're going to do the same thing? Because you see, everybody, it's not the United States government. It's the New World Order. And that's why we're seeing a repeat of this methodology. That's why it is not a mistake. So they are making lists. They are passing legislation to detain us, to round us up. They have passed legislation to throw you in a hole for the rest of your life if they deem you not safe to be let out into the public. And by what they mean by not safe is if you don't agree, if you're a troublemaker, if you speak out, if you free think, if you use your rights as a human being, they will deem you unsafe to be released and you will die in a hole or you will be shot. Everything the Nazis did was legal. You guys know that, right? Everything was passed in legislation. It was legal. It was legal. All right. And so that's, I don't know. I all right. So that's enough on that. Pretty disheartening. Don't worry, we're going to get into some more fun stuff. As the show goes on, I have Christina coming on in about 3 minutes. Christina, if you're out there, you're listening right now, you can call in any old time. The other article I was going to talk to you guys about, preparing. I know I swing all over the place in this show. I go from American internment camps to prepping up a poor man's guide to survival gear, which is an article I did not read, but I'm always up for reading new preparation news. The thing that I really liked about this article when I did skim through it was it brought up some things, communications, electricity, skinny on a survival knife, because you can get wrapped up in paying for a lot of that stuff. But and then it had some weapons stuff, which I really like to talk about because I do like my guns. I do like them. And I will say this: it does mention an AK-47, and it says, I just want to read this funny thing about an AK-47. It says, AK-47. Will you look like a terrorist holding this gun? Yes. But beyond that, the AK is synonymous with dependability and affordability. The gun prices the past few years have skyrocketed in ridiculous fashion. The AK-47, a 7.62 by 39 caliber rifle, you can still be found at around $300, $600, depending on the make, the age, and the honesty of your dealer. This is not a very accurate gun beyond 100 yards. I can attest to that, but I have hit my target at 100 yards. Can you hit a man-sized target beyond 100 yards with an AK? Yep. Can you do it accurately and consistently? Nope. I'll attest to that. You want pinpoint sniper accuracy from a Russian-made weapon? Get a Dragunov. I just might. Only because I got the ammo for that. You want a close quarters weapon that you can clean with a dish rag and motor oil and still have it fire? Get an AK. All right, just plug in the old Kalashnikov. All right, I believe I have Christina on the line right now. Let me grab her and have her give us the skinny on a radioactive tsunami headed our way. Hello, Christina.
Hey, Darren.
How's things going?
Okay.
Yeah. Are you
lots of doom today, though.
I know. I can hear it in your voice already.
Well, tomorrow is supposed to be cold shutdown day, from what TEPCO's been saying, and I've been gearing up for that, and my rebuttal that I'm putting together, and then I came across this article this morning about the stuff that started washing up in Vancouver, and it actually happened about 2 weeks ago.
Hey Chris, can you just tell us what does cold shutdown day mean?
Well, cold shutdown is is the term used in a properly functioning nuclear reactor when it's reached an area where it's stabilized in terms of temperature of the cooling. But that's a situation that is usually in a reactor that hasn't been destroyed by an earthquake and one where the fuel hasn't completely melted out of it. And the gauges that they have that are monitoring those reactors, or what's left of them in Fukushima, half of the gauges don't work, and they're measuring inside that vessel where the control rods used to be. So it's a complete myth and very misleading to be saying that they've reached some kind of cold shutdown status. And that's what they're gearing up to announce tomorrow.
Okay. So basically they're gearing up for a big load of bullshit. Okay. Well, I'm
sure it'll get picked up by all kinds of news sites, and CNN and BBC will run that story, and people will catch it and say, "Oh, okay, everything must be fine over there then."
Yeah, I was just going to say that. I was just going to say that it seems to me like they're trying to put like a nail in the coffin as a finality on Fukushima. Oh, look, we're doing this, and just letting you guys know what's going over here. No big deal. Go back to what you're doing.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, we've got a real mess that's going to be hitting the shores and appears to be already hitting the shores of the West Coast. A couple weeks ago, a Russian trawler came across a boat from Fukushima that was floating quite a few miles still off the coast, and they had done projections based on ocean currents and so forth that they weren't expecting the tsunami debris from Japan to hit the coast for another year or two. And for some reason, it's already separated. A lot of it has to do with the weight of the material and the buoyancy of the materials. Lighter things like foam and plastics are going to get blown over here sooner than heavier things like cars and houses. But it's all coming, and there's been no effort whatsoever to contain it while it's still offshore.
Well, now, you don't have to make an effort to contain anything that doesn't exist, Christina, so I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, in NASA, we can, spot galaxies, millions of light years away, but we can't see where this stuff is and make some kind of plan to deal with it. And, I've been, it's been in the back of my mind, and I've been wanting to look into it further, but, now it's going to be here, and they are already telling police departments to get Geiger counters, because what they're telling citizens to do on these coastal areas is to not touch anything, to just call the police when you find something and have them come out and deal with it. And, just telling the police to start taking Geiger counters over to this stuff, what about hazmat suits? What about training for handling radioactive materials? The stuff is going to need to be cataloged. A lot of it is going to be personal belongings that are probably very important to people who lost relatives and so forth in Japan. And anything that is radioactive is going to need to be disposed of, if not just decontaminated, but disposed of in radioactive landfills. There's no plan to deal with any of this.
Right. And so, well, let me ask you first. Where did you hear about the police are expected to start having Geiger counters with them out there on the West Coast?
That was reported on Any News today.
Oh, okay. It'll be interesting to see. Unfortunately, we'll probably see it. How many of those police willingly do it? And I would love to hear the training they get and what they're going to be told about the radiation that they're going to be exposing themselves to. Because I'm sure they're going to be sold a story, and I'm just wondering how many of them will actually wake up to the fact. Because as horrible as Fukushima is, and it is horrible. I mean, when we really sit down and start to contemplate, I'm sure you do that 24/7. To me, it's something that could really, really wake people up. Whether or not that's too late, I don't know. But I think we need to. I would love to see a way to infuse the awareness of what's going on with Fukushima, how it's affecting us, if we could get that into the Occupy movements, because that's something that every movement, Tea Party, Occupy, whatever you want to call it, as people, as human beings, we could all rally around. And that's something that divide and conquer techniques really wouldn't be able to penetrate, in my opinion. So I would like to, for everybody, to try to infuse that in there. If you go to these demonstrations, if you know people in Occupy and Tea Parties, we got to make people aware of this, because maybe those movements will bring awareness to it, and maybe it'll wake more people up. Instead of people bitching about bankers, which, believe me, plenty to bitch about there. But I like I said, this is something where no divide and conquer technique that I can foresee could have an effect there. But
well, it's not just the stuff washing up and having someone to deal with it. It seems like that should be more of a Homeland Security or EPA problem, really. Right. But the contamination of the beaches as a result of this, if the stuff is radioactive, and I don't know how it couldn't be, it's been floating around in a soup of particles for the last 9 months that we know is 50 million times higher in next to normal levels of what we usually find in the ocean. The fish are contaminated. This stuff is going to have particles all over it, and everything that's blown over and rained out onto the stuff is going to be mixed in. Once it hits the beaches, then the sand is contaminated. And I can foresee that a lot of these beaches are going to need to be shut down if they start finding measurements that are dangerous to human health. What they'll probably do is just up the levels like Japan did. And
sure.
Say, well,
Sure, and make it a militarized zone like they did down the Gulf. They'll kick people out. They'll do all kinds of cover-ups. But you got to think. I mean, I can't picture them closing the beaches down, because think of the repercussions economically from that. And if they do that, that's definitely going to scare the hell out of people. And I'm all for scaring the hell out of people. I really am. I am all about scaring the hell out of you if it gets you to wake up to what you're being exposed to. I have no problem with that. Call me a fearmonger all you want to. I don't really care. But think about the repercussions. If they start, California is known for its coastline. If they start shutting all that down, what do you think? Do you think that?
It's going to be a huge, public health risk, and there's going to be fallout in terms of tourism and so forth. The main reason a lot of people go to California is to go to the ocean.
Yeah, I used to live right on Pacific Coast Highway in Southern California. I'm familiar with the beaches in Southern California. They're great. It's great. It's just it's just unbelievable that this is being allowed to happen. Do you know where this debris is? Are you expecting this to start landing in highly visible beaches? Let's say like Laguna Beach and Black Beach and Huntington Beach in California. All these places like within in a week or 2 weeks or a couple of days, or do you have any idea?
They estimate the size of the debris field is equal to about the area of the state of Texas.
That's a big state.
Mm-hmm. And the way the currents move, the simulations, if you go on YouTube, you can actually look at a simulation of where this debris field is and where they expect it to hit. And it looks like that the Pacific Northwest is where it's going to hit first. And then the way the currents move is they actually they go down south, and when they get around the area of San Francisco or the middle coast, Santa Barbara, they start to kind of swirl back around towards Hawaii. They haven't found anything that I'm aware of around Hawaii yet, but the way the currents go, it would have taken it from Japan north of Hawaii and then circled back around clockwise before it got there. And there are some surf organizations that are trying to organize volunteer efforts at least in the state of Hawaii, and I believe that they are also trying to organize some efforts where citizens can go out and go on these expeditions to look for stuff. But aside from that, I haven't heard any kind of formal plan from anybody. And the Coast Guard could have been on top of this. I mean, they install nets to protect people from sharks in Australia. They could have put nets up in these areas to catch some of this before it comes on shore.
Sure,
and contained it while it's out there rather than letting it come inland.
Right, but like you said, no official effort seems to be in the works whatsoever. So what would people, if regular people, which I'm a big believer in regular people power in fixing things, I think we should all act like grown-ups and stop waiting for our daddy and mommy government or official agencies to come take care of us. That's a whole psychological thing right there, needing some type of parental entity to fall back on. But we're not going to get into that. But what kind of thing will these people be exposed to? I mean, do you have any idea what the levels would be like at that point? Will there be more radioactivity because it's been in the water? Will there be less?
No idea. We're not going to know until stuff starts washing up and people start measuring it. And I would suggest to anyone who comes across any of this debris to take a picture of it at the very least, but leave it alone, otherwise not to touch it. There is a guy on the internet who's obsessed with ocean currents and things that wash ashore, and he's actually set up a page where people can log in and upload photographs of stuff that they find, so he can do some kind of map to track where these things are landing. And it's if these barrels washed up 2 weeks ago, I mean, it could be any time. And oceanographers have been warning since they found that boat, the Russian trawler found the boat, that it would be coming in soon. And that was a few weeks ago, and I hadn't heard anything else about it until that article got posted on Any News Today.
Where did it? Was this an abandoned boat they found with a bunch of radioactive mutants on it, or was this just abandoned? It was just nobody on it.
I don't think they measured any radioactive levels. I don't think they had the equipment for it. It was just a fishing trawler or something that came across it.
Okay.
I mean, if people have divers in that area, they can check the stuff and then call the police or the appropriate agencies to deal with it. Yeah,
I'm waiting on my Geiger counter. It's still not here yet, and it rained today. I'm kind of pissed I don't have it with me, but I think it's going to be after I had you on the program like a week, 2 weeks ago or whenever it was. I think you're exactly right. I mean, anybody who can get their hands on a Geiger counter, this is probably going to be something you're going to want to have access to for the remainder of your natural life now.
Right.
I mean, so
this effort is going to need to be ongoing because the releases are ongoing.
Right.
And at any time, what's going on in Fukushima right now could get 1,000,000 times worse. And that would happen if there was some kind of hydrovolcanic explosion, which even the architect of Reactor 3 has said is inevitable.
Yes.
Or if the spent fuel pool in Reactor 4 falls to the ground and the contents spill out, they would have to evacuate Tokyo at that time. And then the releases would just be unreal. We would probably have to shelter indoors.
Right, yeah.
Which is what the Civil Defense, recommended in case we ever got nuked. I mean, it's like we're getting nuked every day by the stuff that's floating over here. It's like a bomb is going off every day over Japan and floating over here, and it's been like this for 9 months. And it's going to be like this, indefinitely.
Right.
Once stuff lands over here, it doesn't disappear. It's on the leaves of the trees. It's in the soil. It's blowing around when it's windy. And it's not practical to walk around with a Geiger counter all the time and have to check everything, which is why I've been trying to promote just universal precautions and treat everything like it's radioactive. And this is going to have to be ongoing, and until something gets shut down over there, or mitigated, or they encase it in concrete, or do something.
Yeah, that's the key. That's the key phrase. Do something. Do something. They're not doing anything, and they haven't done anything. They haven't done anything that is a rational thing to do. It seems like they've done a lot of surface things. Like, oh look, we're trying. But I mean, you have to know by dumping seawater on it what's going to happen, that it wasn't going to work. I mean, the fact that they try to put these measurements out there, these safety measures, and they're like, oh Jesus, that one didn't work either. I mean,
when they fiddled around with that water treatment system that a French company, Arriva, built to process all the water after it's been dumped on the spent fuel pools and in the reactor cores, and that water has to go somewhere. Well, a lot of it's actually going into the ground, into the ocean. Now we know the strontium releases have been huge, and that's just been reported in the last week or so.
What's the half-life of strontium? Sorry, I don't mean to put you on the spot.
Not sure. Years. It's years.
So it's longer. Okay, I just didn't know.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let me. I want to ask you a little bit about the exposure that people have been getting dosed with across the country. Because let me just say this, you guys. For you Facebookers out there, search for RadChick on Facebook. Join her Facebook page. By the way, Christina, your likes on your Facebook page have been flying up, so that's great to see. It means more people are getting exposed to it, to the information, as well as radiation. But you put up a post yesterday from my area, from the Worcester, Massachusetts area, where they got a 330 count per minute reading.
Yeah.
A spike. So I just want to tell everybody, look, I tell you I'm broadcasting from FEMA Region 1. You guys that don't know your FEMA regions, FEMA Region 1 is like the New England area of the United States, okay? So we're about the, what are you laughing about? You don't know.
This is just the way we need to start talking now.
Well,
Hey,
look, I had some woman. I sent out a mass email, or I had to ask. Jules sent out a mass email for me on Sunday for my show, and I got some feedback from one woman who says, I won't listen to anyone or anything that says FEMA Region 1. And I tried to explain to the woman, I use the terminology to make people aware that this is how the government views the places that we live, our places we call homes. They're a home. They're not, there's no love for that. It's FEMA Region 1. You know what I mean? It's a very what's the word I'm looking for? Oh, I don't know. But what I'm the point I was getting to is that I am pretty much the farthest point away from Fukushima in the United States, and we got a 330 count per million spike yesterday in the city of Worcester. That is about 40 minutes down the road east of me. So that means that radiation went right by me, okay, and spiked in Worcester. And what you had told me on the first time I had you on the show was that anything over a 100 count per minute reading was dangerous. Anything over a 300 count per minute reading was where you would feel physical effects from radiation. And anything over...
Right, that's the EPA's hazard suit level.
Right. Okay. These numbers are from the EPA people. Okay. Very trusting organization. I mean, if anything, we can say that these true numbers should probably be lower if we know anything about the alphabet agencies. But hey, we'll roll with 100, 300, and then you said 500 counts per minute is death. And you also put up a link where was it in Texas that got an 810 count per minute reading?
The 810, let me pull it up and look. I know Bakersfield yesterday, Bakersfield, California, had a couple of spikes that are actually off the graph. They're over 1,000.
Now,
that's just one measuring station. Like in your case, in Massachusetts, the Boston readings were okay. So I mean, it was just this, this air mass but
right.
who knows what it was north of you? You know, it could have been 10,000 CPM. We have so few of these machines, and then half of them don't work right anyway. And then we have evidence that the machines have all been adjusted to read less sensitivity after Fukushima. I sent you a graph of Sacramento, I think, was one in particular. But, you know, compared to the 2010 levels, you can definitely see that the machines were all adjusted. So if these numbers are high on the graphs the way they're set now, what are they really?
Yeah, exactly. What are they really? And you know, what I've said in the past about this, I don't see how the government or the powers that be is going to be able to contain this, to control this, to hide this. When we're having cities exposed to 800 counts per minute, we have to expect to see some pretty radical death increases due to radiation exposure in the very near future in these areas, don't we?
Yeah, well, it's already happening from the CDC numbers of mortality rates across the country. In certain areas of the country are much higher, Pacific Northwest in particular, and then in Idaho and Montana, Utah, Wyoming, that whole track is, I think, 10% over what they were. And if you look at the CDC numbers for the last 10 years, the chart was going down. And then all of a sudden after March, it started going up. And the releases are getting higher all the time. That's the really concerning thing, is that something at that site, or maybe it's the plants here, I don't know, but something's escalating big time.
You know,
so we just need to be more vigilant in our mitigation efforts. And
right,
you know,
right.
Fukushima's changed everything, and it's still 99% of people have no idea that this is going on.
They have no idea. They have no idea, and I cannot wait to get my Geiger counter, because I told you what I'm going to do. I'm going out there with my N95 respirator mask. I already wrote on it Fukushima right on the front so everybody can see it. And I'm going to go out there. I'm going to be wearing that thing. And I don't know what other rad gear I'll have on. By the way, everybody in the chat room, you see me in my rad gear in these scrolling pictures. That's me. I took it right before the show. Well, I wanted to see if my filter worked in my mask. I never put the two together, so I was like, I'll try it. But I'm going to go out there. I don't know what I'll be wearing, but I'll be getting attention no matter what I do with that. And I'm going to let you guys know. And I'm going to, I'm trying to put together. Well, I'm not trying to. Jules is putting together a nice sheet, one-page sheet that I can hand out to people. And I'm going to, we'll see how many people realize, but I'm sure nobody does. Nobody does. And, for you guys listening out there, these readings that we're giving, 800 counts per minute and 300, these are all being done by citizens. Am I right?
The graphs that I'm referring to are the actual EPA graphs. Now, I also check a number of forums where people around the country, including independent researchers, people with Geiger counters, are posting their data. And, they're doing rainfall, snowfall, normal background. They're testing food. They're even, I've seen, tests on hamburgers and milk and things like that, and posting their results. And there's some people on YouTube that are doing that now also, sharing their data. So, and because we don't really have a centralized location to post these things, there's a few different places. Any News has a forum for that. That's a good one to check, and one that you might want to consider posting on also once you get your Geiger counter.
Definitely.
Because I don't think there's any people in the Massachusetts area that's posting on there right now. There's a few people in Ontario, and then just kind of scattered across the country, and a few people in Vancouver and so forth.
So like I said, this is mostly citizens divulging the information. And my point in saying that was it's look, you guys, again, we have to act like adults. We have to take this responsibility on ourselves, because no one's going to do it for us. It's obvious that they don't want to help, and you know who they are. They don't want to help, and it's all about election time. That's all that matters right now. They want to keep you distracted with ridiculous, stories on individual candidates. Herman Cain's getting laid over here. He got laid over there. We have Romney and Newt going back and forth, and of course we have the big Ron Paul debacle. Poor Ron Paul can't get the support, and the media shuts him up, and Obama comes out and he says, "Oh, put anybody up against." I mean, the whole election thing is like a reality television show. I mean, why anybody pays attention to any of these individuals at this point, I really don't know. I really don't. And I'm not saying anything bad about Ron Paul for all you Ron Paul supporters out there. Look, I get it. I understand. The guy says some nice things, but let's be honest with ourselves, okay? Ron Paul is not going to swoop in with his cape, get elected, okay, and change the country. If all of you out there who believe in the New World Order think that's going to happen, you are, confused, okay? I mean, it's just not going to happen. It's just not. And people are going to go, well, Darren, don't be such a defeatist. You got to support Ron Paul. I do, but I'm a realist, okay? I don't believe that the voting system is real. Why should I? Because there hasn't been one president in the past, however many elections that has done anything decent for anybody. They've all continued on the same path, no matter what party they're from. So, and I'm not saying Ron Paul is in that boat, but then again, I gotta question the guy who has followers that are accused of being terrorists, and he doesn't really address that a lot. But I don't watch a lot of political people speak on things, so I could be wrong about that. But anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to break into rant, Christine. I'm sorry.
That's all right. I just posted the link to all of the EPA graphs on your Facebook page. And I'm looking through this list right now, and in the last 2 to 3 days, when I started doing these reports on YouTube, it would be like one or two cities here and there. The last report I did, there were 18 cities that had extraordinarily high readings. The 2 or 3 days before that, there were 13 cities. I mean, I can't even open all these windows at once on my Mac. The computer locks up. There's so many to go over. And just looking right now, Phoenix in the last 2 days has been about 600. Yuma,
600,
Arizona.
600 counts per minute? 600
counts per minute. Yuma, Arizona was 600. Bakersfield off the chart.
Okay, let me address something here. Christina, remember when I actually posted on your page yesterday that I have a friend out in Humboldt County, California, and they said that yesterday was the first time they brushed their teeth in the past 2 weeks without their gums bleeding. They're all suffering from nosebleeds out there. People. These are signs that are indicative of radiation poisoning. So
right.
if
it's really widespread, and I've been getting reports on Twitter that this was going on in the UK about a week ago. There were rampant nosebleeds being reported. Right. And I put out a video on that, and I said, I don't know. I mean, without having air measurements at this moment, we can't really tell, but it could be a sign. And if you have other symptoms, and we really take it seriously. And the next day, there were posters on Any News that had very high readings in London in the rainfall. So it was probably related to that. And since I put out that video, my inbox is full of people saying that they've never had nosebleeds before, and themselves, they're having them, their kids are having them. Strange bruises and bleeding gums and nosebleeds, if you aren't used to having that kind of stuff, could be an indication that you've been exposed.
Right. And hey, let me ask you something. When you started doing this, and from where you started and let's say today, are you blown away by things like that, like you just described? How are you holding up? Really, is what I wanted to ask you. Are you doing okay?
Well, I'm surprised and I'm saddened, and once in a while I get very depressed about the situation and the fact that so many people's kids could be getting sick from this, and it's preventable. You can mitigate a lot of this,
right?
And it just kind of pushes me to work harder in trying to spread the word to people. I mean, coming on the radio and talking to people about a subject that I have no formal training in whatsoever is way outside of my comfort zone. But since Fukushima, and because I'm on a medical leave, I've had time to do a lot of reading, and it helps keep my mind off my back and my medical problems. I've probably read 3,000 articles about what's going on in research papers, and just try to educate myself. And you know, you don't have to be a physicist to understand this stuff. Radiation makes people sick, and we know how it works. We studied it for 25 years from Chernobyl. I mean, this is not a new science.
Well, yeah, radiation kills people. That's why they made nuclear bombs. So what? I mean, oh God, it's just you start wrapping your head around it, and you know what I'm talking about. I don't know. The reason I ask you that is because, look, you said you know it's way outside your comfort zone because you have no formal training. Well, unfortunately, people with formal training probably had a lot of debt on their hands from a lot of formal schooling, and they're probably working in formal industries, and they will probably lose their formal jobs if they decide to speak out on this. So I usually trust people who don't have a formal education in something. Because, I mean, let's be honest. Let's everybody be honest with themselves about the education system. It's a load of shit. Okay? It is. It's a load of crap, and it's a compartmentalized system, and we all know who invented its structure, and we all know who gives it its funding. So, you know, let's not really. I don't really put a lot of credibility into being formally educated or holding a degree in this or a doctorate in that. I'm sorry, because I've interviewed a NASA rocket scientist, and the guy was one of the most dumbed down people I've ever met in my life. And I'm not kidding you. And so what can I say? It's just my own personal experience. So you know, people like you, you know, you have no ulterior motive. What is it? I mean, you're not.
No, I have no agenda. I don't make any money from doing this. I don't have any financial interest in any of the products or anything that I recommend for mitigation. And I've actually been had people ask to donate money for me to do this, and I've turned them down because I don't want that to cloud the reason why I'm doing this.
Well, listen, okay? You know, unfortunately, we need worthless paper to exist in this matrix right now, okay? So if you ever get to the point where you're not going to be able to continue, you know, getting this information out there, and you need money, take it. Look, I'm hawking T-shirts for $20 donations. You send a $20 donation into the show on our website, frontradio.net, shameless plug, and you know, you get a T-shirt for that. I would much rather give my T-shirts away to help spread the word. But the truth of the matter is, you know, I pay to do this program and everything that goes along with it, and I'm out of a job right now, and I don't have the money to keep going. So I hate to ask, but you know, if anybody thinks that someone like you or someone like me is going to be compromised because I'm selling a T-shirt for $20. Well, you know what? I mean, we can compare who has more to lose and who's more compromised, me and you or the guys that work for the system. You know, I mean, just rationalize to yourself, people. You know, don't ever feel bad about that, Christina, because, you know, you're doing good work. And if you need need money in order to keep doing this work, I mean, take it. You know, anybody with their
as long as I can do it without, I'm going to try to do it that way. And
right.
You know, a lot of people are in the same boat that are paying attention to this because we're all unemployed and we're all online, and we're, you know, reading and studying and talking to others.
Yeah.
And none of us have any money to do any research.
Right. Big mistake, New World Order, putting us all on unemployment. Now we have way too much time on our hands to research the wrongs.
Well, the other thing you and I need to talk about, because we've got the inside scoop on this, is that if things continue the way they are, you know, the pot smokers are going to inherit the earth. And there's a few reasons for that. And a lot of people aren't aware of the research and studies that have shown that marijuana not only cures cancer but can prevent it.
You are good. You segued for me. I like that. Okay, continue.
And I had to renew my card a week ago, and I had a long talk with the doctor that I see.
What card is that?
You know, the Michigan Medical Marijuana Program. I am a registered patient, and I've been for 3 years. And when I first hurt my back, I was at the most I was taking 13 different medications. They weren't all for my back, because you know, after taking pain pills and so forth, you know, eventually your stomach lining starts to develop problems, so you need stomach meds, and then you feel so crappy all the time, then you need stuff for depression, and, you know, it goes on and on. You start having side effects from all these other things that are treating you, and since I've gotten my card and started using medical marijuana to treat my back injury, I've been able to get down to 3 medicines. And when I talked to my doctor about this, you know, I said to him, with this Fukushima situation, every single person in the country right now should be working marijuana into their diet because of its preventative and curative abilities. And there's been research that's been done in our country. Of course, it's been covered up. It's not been promoted except by organizations like NORML, that, you know, marijuana has these abilities. There's a Harvard study that's been done, and I put some of these links on your Facebook page earlier, showing that marijuana has been clinically proven to reduce tumors in mice and in rats. There was a study that was done. This very famous pulmonary specialist, Dr. Tasher, I believe is his name, was given a huge research grant by the National Institutes of Health back in early 2000 because they wanted to show how dangerous marijuana was in comparison to tobacco smokers. And what that study showed is that the people who smoked marijuana had less incidence of cancer. You know, while we still have access to the internet and a lot of these articles, look them up because the feds are constantly trying to tinker with our Freedom of Information Act and trying to hide this kind of stuff from us. And the other thing is that marijuana has been proven to be actually beneficial to children. And there was a huge study that was done in Jamaica in 2004 called the Jamaican Baby Study, where they had, and as you know, Jamaica, it's part of their culture and their religion to use cannabis. And they had 2 groups of pregnant women that they followed. One smoked pot throughout their pregnancy, and the other group didn't. And the babies that were born to the pot-smoking mothers actually outscored the babies born to the non-pot-smoking mothers in every category. You know, our bodies are made to accept endocannabinoids. We have little plug-in receptors not only in our brain but in our lungs, in our stomach, in our intestines, and in our kidneys. It's nature's medicine. And because of the, you know, pharmaceutical industry, they have heavily promoted what a horrible and dangerous drug marijuana is, because basically if everybody smoked pot, they would feel a lot better and they wouldn't go to the doctor as much.
Yes.
And that's why it's illegal.
That is true. That is why it's illegal. And it's also illegal because, you know, because of the whole hemp thing, industrial hemp. I mean, you know, like you said, our bodies have cannabinoid receptors all throughout it. You know, we're supposed to use this. You know, us and cannabis go together, you know, like peanut butter and chocolate. Pretty good, you know. Mm-hmm. So, which is delicious after you've had some cannabis.
And, you know, regardless of how you feel about marijuana, the Fukushima situation and the radiation and the potential effects to your health warrant everyone taking a look at this. And we only have a few studies over here, but there's been 20,000 studies that have been done in Europe that show how beneficial it is as a medicine. And, in fact, a lot of European countries right now are legalizing. Sweden, for one, just recently said that every resident of Sweden can grow up to 10 plants a year. And I really think that the countries that have socialized medicine are on top of this because they're going to bear the brunt of the health care costs when their people get sick from the radiation. So they're taking steps right now to let people start treating themselves. And that's what needs to happen here. And Ron Paul has already said that he would legalize it if he became president.
Yeah,
you know,
that would
he's a
be
doctor.
great.
He understands the benefits. You know, Obama had said he wasn't going to go after patients. He was discouraging the DEA from going after patients, but that hasn't happened at all. In fact, in Michigan, they have attacked patients. It's just unreal.
What?
It's just unreal what they've done to patients here who have
cards. You're trying to tell me that Obama has not followed through on something?
No.
My God.
And I think that was the reason a lot of people voted for him. A lot of younger people voted for him because he had such a realistic approach to it, and it seemed like he understood.
Well, let's not kid ourselves. People voted for him because he was a slick marketing tool, and we are all so sick of George Bush we could probably stab our own eyes out if we had one more old white guy warmongering up there. So here comes slick, young, energetic Barry, swishing around up on the stage, big old smile, telling us exactly what we want to hear, talking your pants right off you. I mean, he was a perfect marketing tool, and the guy's been, let's drop the marketing and we can just say tool.
Yeah, Michigan's been has some really some very sad stories, things that have happened to patients here who are following the rules. I got caught up in that myself a couple of years ago when I first hurt my back and my employers canceled my insurance. I went for 2 years without any income and buying 13 different medications every month. I was selling stuff on Craigslist just to get the money to do that. And someone had given me some seeds, and I grew 2 plants. One I fertilized with compost heavily, and the other one I did nothing, just to see. So when I got my card, when I was able to get enough money together to get the card, I could start growing, and I would know what I was doing, and I would have a better understanding of how to grow better medicine. And I also knew we had something called the affirmative defense, which is supposed to protect people who have a verifiable illness if they don't have the money to get a card. And that didn't work for me. When I got caught, I had 6 conditions that would have qualified me as a patient. The prosecutor's office wouldn't even look at my medical records. And the news story kind of blew up a little bit. It was a slow news day, and the story actually ended up going nationwide for a while. So they really wanted to make an example of the situation. It was very unfortunate. It was extremely damaging to my whole family, and I had all the conditions. I researched it heavily before I did it. I was desperate for alleviation of my pain, and now, I mean, the situation they put me in, I actually got a felony for having 2 plants. So even if my back condition completely resolved itself, I would be forced to perpetuate this back condition so I could stay on disability. Because
right.
I can't get hired by anybody with a felony until it gets expunged, which won't be for another 3 years. So, I mean, that's this kind of situation that they're putting people in. If you weren't a criminal before, you're almost forced to become one.
Right. Well, and then they have reasons to lock you away if they want to.
Mhm.
Right. Well, hey, I guess they wanted to make an example out of you. And I'm sure there was a lot of misinformed people out there screaming, "What kind of mother are you?" and things like that, right?
Actually, no. There were a lot of people that were very, very against the situation, that were trying to get them to back off, and I think that just made things worse for me eventually with the courts and so forth, because there were DARE meetings, there were PTA meetings that happened because of that. When my kids went to school the next day, every single classroom talked about the situation. And, if anything, it got people talking about it at the time, and that's a good thing. Whether it was right or wrong, at least it got people talking about it.
Right.
And the interesting thing that came out of the conversation, though, now that I'm somewhat, I'm a regular user, I have to use it all day, basically, so I don't have to fall back on the really heavy pain stuff.
Right.
And I told my doctor, I said, when I went to see him, I said, does marijuana make you smarter? And he kind of laughed, and he's like, what, you mean IQ-wise? No, not really. Why? Why is it that you're questioning that? I said, well, because I've never had the ability that I do now to analyze and understand extremely complicated subjects like nuclear physics. And he told me that basically that's because marijuana helps tap into very creative thinking in your brain and allows you to not become distracted, become more focused, and see more kinds of big picture stuff.
That could, and do you feel that happens when you're under the immediate influence of it, or after, or just in general?
Just in general, but again, like I pretty much smoke all day. Only
Right.
very, very small amounts, though, and that has been really the key. And that's not something that they really teach you when you get your card or when you go to a shop or you get it from your caregiver. They want to sell more of it, unfortunately, and so you can kind of overdo it. And if I use too much of it, well then, yeah, it makes me feel lazy and unmotivated and kind of clouds my thinking. But to use very small amounts evenly throughout the day, that helps keep my tolerance down.
Right.
So I can stretch out, because it builds up pretty quickly where you need to use more and more to get the same effect.
Yeah, tell me about
it. Whenever I can go without it, I do, and your tolerance very quickly goes back to normal.
Right.
I think the longest I've been able to go is 3 days without it. And then when I did use it again, it was like I've never even smoked it before. It had such an effect.
Stoned out of your mind.
Yeah, because the stuff is expensive, and you need to stretch it out. And I definitely have seen, and would tell anybody that is going to use it, of course, do it legally. The biggest side effect to marijuana use is getting caught.
Right.
No one's ever overdosed on it, ever. It's impossible to overdose on it.
No, no one has ever overdosed on it. And use it legally, kids. And it does make you smarter.
Wherever, in whatever state you're in, if you have a medical condition that would possibly qualify you, I think it'd be a really good thing to look into right now. Because we need every tool that we can get to protect us from this stuff.
Now before, look, I'm trying to interject a little bit of satirical comedy in here, just because it's my way of dealing with the horrific things we talk about. If I didn't do that, I would fly into rage-filled rants, which I enjoy on occasion. I'm not going to lie. But in all seriousness, what you're bringing up is a great way to mitigate the effects of radiation and cancer. So listen, people, all the crap we were taught in school. I remember when I first learned about what pot was, and then I went and I was a little kid. They came in, I think it was sixth grade, and the cop came in with the briefcase with joints in it and stuff, and said that, if this is what it looks like, this is what it smells like. If you do this, you're going to start doing, this, and he's pointing to heroin, and then you're going to do this, and all this stuff. And I was blown away. I was like, oh my God, I've seen those joints at my house, and so I went home to my stepfather, and I was all upset, and I yelled at him. I remember I was a little kid, I yelled at him, I go, I'm not listening to anybody who smokes pot. And I ran off into the woods.
The reefer madness.
Yeah, so but then not soon after, one of my good friends came over and he said, hey, what's that, right? You know what that is right there? And I was like, yes, I do. And he's like, come on, let's take this. We went in the woods, and the show was over after that. So, all the things we learned about it. And I know people now, my mother My mother thinks that if you smoke pot, then she would rather have you taking, Paxil and every other kind of pharmaceutical, anything legal, getting drunk, falling down, all that stuff. Because she thinks that if you smoke pot, you're insane. You're insane. And there's people like that out there. And so I just wanted to make the point that, what you're saying is very important and relevant. And, I apologize for making jokes about it, but I try to keep I don't want everybody to get so depressed, man,
Definitely, people should look into it. If you don't believe it, just do a couple hours of reading online and look at these studies. I mean, don't look at people's opinions. Look at testimonials and look at all the children that have brain cancer right now that are using it because otherwise they can't eat because they're so sick from chemo and radiation. When they start incorporating medical marijuana into these kids' diets, it actually boosts their energy. It makes them feel better. It allows them to keep food down.
So how did you mentioned that, and I forgot to ask you about that. When you said, as far as pot being good for kids, how, administered how? Are they smoking fatties? Are they eating food? Okay. All right. Well,
you can turn it into a butter, and then you can just bake or cook with the butter or put the butter on toast.
Yeah, I've done that.
And that's how the children are treated with it.
Yeah, it tastes like weed butter. I've made it before. It still tastes, it's like buttery pot. That's what it tastes like. It's not too bad, though. That's not too bad. It's worth it, I'll tell you that. Purely for medicinal purposes, people. Purely. And for relaxing and taking the stress off, out of the New World Order agenda.
Oh, it definitely helps with those things, too, and the depression and anxiety and everything. I mean, there's 126 conditions that medical marijuana has been proven to help alleviate symptoms. And some of that are from our studies and from the studies in Europe. But, I mean, that's a boatload of stuff that it helps.
I've been a personal trainer for over 20 years. Once I got to know my clients well enough, I would always recommend that they smoke pot. And I would recommend they smoke pot so they would sleep better, de-stress, if they had digestive issues that it wasn't allowing them to eat properly, all of these things. And I've been using it since I'm 15 years old on practically a daily basis if I could help it. I don't feel as though it's made me stupid, slow. I will admit to the fact that as soon as I get done smoking it, if I've smoked a generous amount, I may not be quite on target and my coordination won't be there. But those are things that last very short periods of time. The overall long-term effects, I really can't see any. And even lung capacity. I mean, I played football for 13 years and I never needed to rest because of lung capacity. You know what I mean? I've never found that to be an issue from smoking. Smoking pot. I don't smoke cigarettes and never have. But so I'm just laying my personal testimony to smoking pot out there for everybody. I haven't found anything wrong with it, and I'm very in tune with health and fitness and wellness, and I think it goes hand in hand with those things, personally.
Yeah, and there's tons of research to back that up too.
Right.
And you can look at it online now while we still have the internet.
Yeah, well, we still do. Somebody brought up a great point in chat. Tyler brings up a great point. He says he vaporizes. That's great. I don't know if you ever tried that, but
that's better than smoking it for sure. And that's what all the doctors recommend too, either ingestion through food or vaporizing, because not only are you not getting the smoke and the tar and so forth,
right,
but when you smoke cannabis, you're only getting about 20% of the beneficial part of it. And when you vaporize, it's something like 80%.
Yeah, and it wipes out. It takes something like 90-something% of all the impurities, and actually enhances like you just said, enhances the THC content. The only thing, it's a little bit different of a buzz. So So if you've been smoking it for your entire life, you know, you're really used to the whole head thing. But when you vape it, it's a little bit different. You know, just as potent. Don't get me wrong. I enjoy it. I like vaping it too. I just usually don't do it because I'm too impatient.
Yeah, and it's a pain to go and turn it on and let it heat up, and you know, mine has a tube connected to it. You put the medicine in there, and then sometimes, you know, if you only are hitting it once, then it might get knocked over and the stuff spills out. I would rather have one of those portable ones. They're about the size of a cigarette pack.
Right.
And you only put a very tiny amount in there. But it's not burning it. It's just heating it to the right temperature so that you can extract the good part of it.
Yeah. You know, you're motivating me to whip out my vaporizer this evening. I just might do it. It's been a while. I have to knock the dust off it. But all right, Christine, we're going to wind this thing up. Do you have anything else you want to add about anything, radiation, you know, weed, anything?
No, just if you could like drop in a link for my YouTube channel. I put forecasts up every couple of days to show where the highest potential fallout areas are based on what the jet stream is doing, what's going on over at the plant as far as releases, and where the heaviest rainfall is occurring, and from the readings that I see being posted on the different forums from independent people. So just to give you an idea of what days might be better to stay inside.
Okay.
So you're exposed to less fallout.
Yeah, I'm going to throw your link up now. I don't know if somebody's already done it because I can't see the chat room. Oh, no, stop doing that. No, not that. Hold on a second here.
Thanks for the opportunity to come on here and talk about this.
Yeah, of course. You know,
it definitely needs to be shared, you know, far and wide and quickly because we've lost a lot of time already.
You know, listen, you know, I broadcast Monday and Thursday nights at 6. If you ever want to pop on, you know, just get a hold of me. You know how to do it, and you're more than welcome. You know, I don't do this show to have you know, to be the guy with the big news story or you know, any stupid thing like that. This is all about, I think we're all working together, and whoever has the ability to get the information out there, let's support them. Let's do that. We all need to share information and get it out there, you know. So check her out on YouTube. The link is up in the chat room. I'll also post up her YouTube link on the Front's Facebook page, which will go over the website. Check her out on Facebook, RadChick on Facebook. And is there any other sites we have going on, Christina?
No, Any News is a really good site to get really up-to-date info also.
Oh, okay. NE
and
News.
It's spelled E-N-E News.
Okay. Oh, and you're also going to be on with my buddy JJ this Sunday, right, on Against the Wall in Orion?
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. You'll have fun. JJ's a great guy. We've had a couple adventures together already. You'll like him. He does a very good show. So all you guys, check out JJ's show Sunday at 3. It's at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Orion Talk Radio Network with Christina Consolo, a.k.a. RadChick. And what's your YouTube name?
iChicaX4.
Yeah, I just wanted to make you say it. All right. All right, everybody. Christina, thank you for coming on again. Anytime you want to pop on, just let me know. Thank you guys for listening. I'm going to leave you with these normal words of wisdom. See you all Monday.
Your choice is simple. Join us and live in peace, or pursue your present course and face obliteration. We shall be waiting for your answer. The decision rests with you.